teacher, life coach, stress reduction consultant, and yoga instructor. He grew up in a racially charged and physically dangerous environment. And living with this intense energy, he became interested in yoga, and by 11, he was devouring books on it. And throughout his adolescence, though, he played football, became injured, and took up an aggressive form of yoga to try to help heal, which hurt him a little further. So then he wanted a softer style of yoga, adopted that, combined it with meditation, and blended it now into his current form of practice. And he applies this to stress reduction, conflict resolution, and he has a 25-year career working with aggressive adults. So his work was created out of the need to ground and heal himself and a desire to help our shared community. So with that, please welcome Drake Powe.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm so grateful for the introduction and just the invitation to be here today. So anyway, I'm going to ring the bell as I usually do. I'm going to ask you to listen carefully. Here we go. And I would ask you to take a nice full-bodied breath in, an enormous ah sound. Ah. And let the breathing come back to normal. Eyes opening. Bells are magical, you know. Bells are magical. They tell us when it's time to wake up. And I think it's time, right? It's time to wake up. So today I want to touch base on balance. And I want to have a conversation on balance and what balance means. And I'm really interested in learning from you all about balance because I'm not an expert on balance. But it is something I'm very, very intrigued by and encouraged by. So I would suggest that one of the things that we need, one of the elements that we need most right now is balance. You know, one of the elements that we need most is balance. And to find balance, we have to explore it and what it means. So first of all, to me, one of the elements that I would like to suggest around balance is that balance is not a destination. Balance is a direction. It's not like you get there and you're balanced. You become more balanced. It's like patience. There's not some ultimate state where you say you are now patient. You become more patient. And so balance and patience are linked and related to each other. Balance is what allows us to find authenticity. So an example of balance is if you were going to be walking with a long shelf and you were going to put your hand right at the balance point, it might be right in the middle where you could hold that shelf and it would balance perfectly. But if that's not an accurate situation, if one side is more weighty than the other, you may have to slide your hand over and it may not be in the middle. It may be far over to one side, but in terms of the balance of the weight, it's perfectly balanced. And so I want to suggest to you that that's our situation. We exist at the balance point. That's what human beings are. We exist at the point of the inner and the outer world. So to me, one of the elements of balance is understanding the difference between the inner and the outer world. It's kind of like having someone who's leaning forward. Of course, they're going to be stumbling forward. They're not going to be in balance. So if we want to find that point, we have to find that balance point that we are able to look both in the outer world and the inner world and recognize that they're both equally important. There's not one that's more important than the other. And I want to suggest to you that what most of us do is spend most of our time in the outer world. Even your sense of self, your sense of self-identification is external. You know, it's based on people in the world. It's based on how people view us. But what I want to suggest is that real balance comes from inside out and not from outside in. So one of the elements first, in terms of finding balance, is I would like to ask everyone in here at the same time, don't look at anyone, everyone, on the count of 3, I'm going to ask you to point to yourself. So 1, 2, 3. Everyone point to themselves. Now I'm going to ask you just to look around the room and look at everywhere, every single point, every single person here, almost every single person here is pointing at. Almost every person is pointing right here. Right? I was in Northeast recently, and they had these peanut characters, the peanut characters, the Schultz characters, Charlie Brown and all those characters. I was standing right next to Charlie Brown. Well, I grew up with Charlie Brown. I always liked Charlie Brown. Charlie Brown's a weird-looking guy. When you really see Charlie Brown in real life and you see him standing next to you, you realize that his head is enormous. Well, I want to suggest to you that that's the way most of us are walking through life, as though we have these enormous heads. Everything is channeled towards our head. Everything is channeled towards our concepts, our perceptions of reality. Everything is focused on how people view us and if we are taking things personally. Everything's focused on what's going on in the world. And of course, it's all very, very important. But I want to suggest to you that you are more your heart and your gut than you are your head. People talk about the gut as being the second brain, right? And when people talk about the heart, it's so interesting to me because there's so many different ways in which life gives us clues. When you talk about the heart of the matter, you're talking about the main thing. You're talking about the point, the center, right? The main thing is the heart. And so I want to suggest that if we're going to be balanced, that we have to come from the heart. You have to come from the heart, and the heart comes from inside out. The heart is in stillness. The outer world is the world of change. If you are looking for continuity and consistency in change, then you're looking in the wrong place. If you lose your keys, you can't look for where you didn't find them or where you didn't lose them. It comes back to that joke. If you see someone searching for their keys underneath a street lamp and you go out to help that person, and after about 15 minutes you ask them, are you sure that you lost your keys here? And they say, no, I'm pretty sure I lost them at home, but there's more light here. You're probably never going to find those keys. So the balance point is in the inner world and goes outward. So I just want to do a very, very quick practice right now, and then I want to come back to the conversation, because I want to give some relationship to this inner world. So right off the bat, I'm going to ask you to get into contact with your breath. Just slow your breathing down. Get in contact with your breath. Drop awareness into the lower abdomen, into the hara. It's an inch below the navel and a half an inch in. So now we're doing two things at once. We're slowing the breathing down. We're dropping awareness into the hara. And notice subtlety, some subtlety, the sound of the room, the spaciousness, the echo. So now we're doing three things at once. We're slowing the breathing. We're dropping awareness into the hara. And we're noticing some subtle detail. And in the mind and in the heart, I'm asking you to be aware of your own presence. Feel your presence right in the heart. Just be in that space. And connect with that thought, experience, I am. Slow your breathing down. Drop awareness into the hara. Notice your feet. And say the phrase in your heart, I am. Breathing slowly and easily. I'm going to ask you to access your mind's eye right now. With your eyes closed, see if you can remember what this room looks like. We've all been here before, right? Breathing slowly and easily. In your mind's eye, take a look around the room. You all know that I'm slightly higher raised on the stage here. You remember certain elements of what's behind me, and you know how this room is set up, how the chairs are set up, and how this beautiful stained glass is. This room is an energetic vortex, and one of the most amazing things about this room is the dome. You don't have to look up, you know it's there. Breathing slowly and easily. I'm going to ask you now just to imagine what this building looks like from the outside, looking down at the dome. And raise back, further and further back. See this whole area. See South Minneapolis. Go further and further back. See the continental U.S. Breathing slowly and easily, and just look at the planet Earth. Going further back through the solar system. All the way through. Now look back at the Milky Way. And all those many, many galaxies like sand. Breathing slowly and easily. Now make your way back. Let yourself be drawn back here. Back to the Earth. Back to the Minneapolis area. See the dome again, and come back into the room. Breathing slowly and easily. Take a nice breath in, and a big sigh. Make the ah sound. Ah. Let it release. Eyes opening. So I want to suggest to you that a huge amount of balance is how much space you have. If you don't feel like you have space, you will not feel balanced. So all this space we have inside us, all that stuff, all the galaxies, everything is inside each one of us. We all have all that inside of us. But if we are looking at things just from right here, we're not going to feel the space we need to feel balanced. I want to suggest to you that the key to joy is what you are dedicated to, not what happens to you. The key to meaning is what we're dedicated to. And in this relationship of balance, as we become more and more balanced, as we step into stillness, we start finding authenticity. We start finding access to genius. And we start finding needs that need to be met. So what I'm suggesting to you is balance is space. It's kind of like being in an auditorium, like a really, really fully packed auditorium, and you need to get from here to your party. Well, if you had never done anything like that, can you imagine how daunting that would be? You're in a building with thousands of people, and they're all milling around, and somehow you have to get to where you are and get through that whole crowd to that person that you're with. But the truth is that if you recognize how much space you have, you can find your way. You can meander all the way through all that group until you find that person. If you are just going to be like a bumper car, just ramming into people all the way through, you're probably not going to get to the person you want to get to. Balance is about recognizing how much space you have. And the space that you have is completely related to your relationship to your thoughts and your emotions. If you have space between your thoughts and your emotions, you have balance. If you're identified with something that changes all the time, it's like looking at the northern lights and being identified that the northern lights have to be this one image, and if they're not, you're going to feel anxious. Well, that's not going to work, right? Because the northern lights are always shifting. The emotions are always shifting. If you identify with yourself as your emotions, you are going to be dedicated in a subliminal way to keeping those emotions going. If you feel that you are an anxious person, then you have to reinforce that by finding things to be anxious about. So in being grounded and being authentic, what we end up finding out is that this world is happening for us, not to us. It's a benevolence. Einstein said that, something to the effect that the key choice in life was whether the world was and the universe was for you or against you. I want to suggest that each one of us is blessed and is a blessing. And this world is exactly what we need in order to become who we need to become. So being balanced is about moving towards your authentic self. When you are in your authenticity, you are balanced. One of my favorite things, and I love this about Minneapolis and the Twin Cities, is that time of the year, and I feel like we all probably know it, well, you'll be walking around, it's going to be happening soon, and all of a sudden you're going to smell something. And I smell lilacs. And then you're going to look around and there's going to be a lilac bush. That's the experience of balance. The lilac bush is not trying to create an effect with you. It's just being authentically itself. And by being authentically itself, it changes the environment. When we are in balance, we automatically change the environments that we're in. We become kinder. We recognize that the world is not against us, and there's no one in this world who is our enemy. Even people who do reprehensible things, and we all know that that kind of stuff is happening. But I want to suggest that when you find these elements, these reprehensible elements, that's your opportunity to find balance. It's alchemy, as above, so below. What's going on in the collective human consciousness is profound. And it's a call to action to you as an individual to shift your relationship with your emotions. That's what it's here for. To recognize that your ability to make a difference is not capped by you. I've told this story many times, about where I grew up and how those things were. And, I grew up in a tough situation. And one person who made a profound difference in my life was a woman who was a single mother with 7 children by herself. She was depressed. She wasn't educated. She was an Irish Catholic American woman. And she changed my life because she was kind to me at a point when no one was kind to me. And here I am at 58. This happened when I was in 3rd grade. Here I am at 58 telling a story about one of my heroes. And I can tell you she had no sense of how much effect she had. You have no idea the effect you might have. I know I'm not the only one. Are there other people like this? Like I like to let people in on the highway, and if someone is crossing the street, you know how you have to kind of edge up to kind of look around the traffic? I'll back up so let the person go by. I'm going to be honest with you. If I do that and they don't even look at me, I get like, oh. Right? Don't you want that little acknowledgement, like, right? The world seems like a better place. Right? That's making a difference. That's making a difference, just that little wave. So I want to encourage you to become determined to make a difference in your life, because you can make a difference in your life, and you are here to make a difference in your life, and you have no idea that when you do, what powerful effect you might have. Or the damaging effect that all those people who are caught up in egocentricity can have. The easiest thing in the world is to hate someone who hates you. It's like falling off a log. It's probably even easier than falling off a log. But I want to encourage you to realize that your teacher has brought you to this place. And I'm not talking about any human being. I'm talking about your heart. And this is exactly what you need to become who you need to become. As long as you don't sit in lamentation. Because that's just ineffective. Balance is recognizing that there is balance between you and life itself. Right? God enters into equal relationships. God enters into equal relationships. If there's an energetic imbalance, that never works well. Excuse me. So the relationship I'm talking about in this sense of balance is between you and life itself. You are an equal partner to your life. You are not a junior partner. You are a co-creator of your life. You and God are creating your life together. You and life. Now, I want to suggest to you that if you think that this life is going to make you happy, you're just looking for your keys in the wrong place. Right? So I've talked about this many times. If you want to be balanced, understand what your values are. And I want to suggest that these values are some good ones. I didn't create them myself. I got these from the Lotus Sutra, but I feel like they're good values. I want to share them with you. I shared them with you before. I share them with you every time I come. Kindness. Kindness is all important. Be kind. Even in limit setting. Be kind. You can set limits without hating. I'm talking about even defending your family. I'm talking about even a situation where you have to defend your family even at the risk of physical, harm. You don't have to hate. Compassion. Understand that everyone has a hard road here. Everyone does. I want to suggest to you that one of the things that happens for human beings is that we are all connected. Our hearts are all connected. Even those people who you feel that you completely have nothing in common with. I'm going to tell you an individual that you don't have anything in common with, or very, very little. An ant. There's not a lot of communication happening. But when you're talking about a human being, even human beings who do horrible things, that's why acting is so powerful, because we all have those human experiences in us. We have the ability, if we recognize it, to let go of the seeds of hatred by stepping into compassion. Joy. I want to tell you, you got to step up to joy. We need you to be joyful. That's the way you change the world, is through joy. The Buddha said you cannot wash away blood with blood. And you can't change the world by hating it. Right? The world is a gigantic circle, and you are at the very center of that circle. In your world, you are at the center of your circle. You can't hate the world and love yourself. It's impossible. I just learned that, by the way. I did. Because I was dealing with latent self-hatred throughout most of my life, and you would not have known it. But, I just couldn't get over it. I just see people doing things. And I didn't seem to be able to get over it. And then I would find myself doing things I wasn't proud of. But I want to suggest that when you are equal partners with life, if you're not looking for your happiness there, what happens is you can bring joy to life. That's what enjoyment is. Enjoyment is something you bring to the table. That delicious meal, that wonderful book, that's not bringing joy to you. You are bringing joy to it. So joy is about being on mission. Joy is about making progress. Joy is about framing things so you feel like you're winning. Right? I got out of the shower this morning, I looked at the mirror, I was like, could be worse. Joy is about recognizing that it's all relative. And it's about shielding yourself. One of the things that I want to encourage you to do, and this is what I do to bring balance, is every time I find something disturbing, every time I do something positive in real time. When you are thirsty, do you schedule drinking for water later on? You're thirsty in the morning, I'm going to make sure I'm going to drink some water tonight. When you feel that imbalance, when you look at the news and you look at what's going on in the world, and I'm going to tell you, things going on in the world is heartbreaking to me right now. Heartbreaking. But I want to encourage you to realize that this is actually the world calling for you to step up. To step up to shifting your emotions. So what I do when I hear a siren, and by the way, that heartbreak happened here as well, and it's still happening to some degree. I want to suggest that what's going on in the world is all the same thing. What's happened in Minneapolis, what's happening in America, what's happening in Ukraine, it's all part of the same thing. And we are not going to shift it by getting on board with it and feeling more of that. Don't get me wrong, I'm not against limit setting. But I am not into hatred. So what I'm suggesting is understand that it's all a form of inflammation. When you hear that siren, go work on your garden. The garden you have in your house, the hydroponic garden. Go paint. Call your grandmother. Call your friend who you know who's having a hard time. Do it right then. Do some affirmations. Do it right then. Do some breathing techniques. Do some yoga. Get moving. Changing the world doesn't mean it has to be in the exact same area. Do something that makes a difference right then. Be connected and understand that as you're doing these elements, that you can also have a commitment to justice. You can have a commitment to justice without thinking you are the judge. So yes, do something to make a difference. Do something to throw your hat in the ring in making the world a more peaceful place. But more important than anything is shifting your relationship to your thoughts and emotions. Until you develop that relationship where your thoughts and emotions are working for you rather than you working for them, you're always going to end up in the wrong place. So this is what I'm talking about. We can make a difference. We can make a difference. Now, I want to do some more practice, but I want to check in with you. Does this make sense at all? Yes? Okay, so I want to understand, meaning, purpose. And by the way, the fourth of my values is positive indifference. Positive indifference. In Buddhism, it was actually called indifference, but I amended it to positive indifference because the word meant something different for them. If someone says to you that you're indifferent, they're not complimenting you, right? I was working with a person one time about 30 years ago. They told me that their partner was odorless, colorless, and tasteless. That was not a compliment. That's indifferent. But positive indifference means something entirely different. Positive indifference means that no matter what happens, you got this. Positive indifference means that no matter what happens, this life is happening for you, not to you. Positive indifference is recognizing that you are not going to become your best self unless you're challenged to be your best self. It doesn't just happen. So positive indifference is being grateful for your life as it is. And everything that's going on in the world is part of your life. It's not separate from you. It's not separate from you. So those are my four values: kindness, compassion, joy, and positive indifference. And every day I get myself pumped about those four values. I grew up in a situation where really, really, really hardcore situation. Really, really hardcore. Far more than you guys can really imagine. I grew up with baseball bats and bricks and crosses burning and explosives, and one of my friends was beaten to death. But what I'm suggesting is I wouldn't be here today if all that stuff hadn't happened. And it wasn't just that, it was before that. My family growing up in Mississippi, all the stuff from there. But I wouldn't be who I am today without it. And I have a burning desire to be part of a peaceful relationship to the world. So these are my values. This is my sense of mission. This is my sense of purpose. And this is part of how I explore balance. And I have some more ideas about balance, but I'm looking for you to support me with balance. What does balance mean? What do you do to get balanced? So can anyone share some ideas about balance with us, if they would? Anyone at all? You can raise your hand, or I can maybe volunteer you.
Was watching the little Buddha with my daughter, and when Siddhartha was in the water and he was floating the bowl, sorry, over there, floating this bowl, and he said, and it was on a string, and he said, if you pull too hard, it will break, and if you don't pull hard enough, it's too slack. And for some reason, that stuck with me, and how balance is so important. But what you're saying is, to what degree? What is that? So how do we know that's...
I love it. Thank you. And part of what I want to suggest is that balance is always in the present. Balance is now. So, it's finding ways. It's finding, for instance, how powerful language is. So that was an amazing thing you said. But I also noticed you said the only thing I remember is this, which I want to suggest that, that's a big thing. The only thing sounds like something small. So part of finding balance is recognizing how amazingly powerful we are. That's a profound memory, and there's something about that. When you understand one thing well, you understand everything well, and that expresses that balance. So thank you very much. Did you have another question or statement? Okay. No, go ahead, sir. Yeah.
I don't like to. For me, I guess balance would be a different state. Like it's seeing things from other individuals' perspectives. Like we like to have this mentality of these people or this situation or this institution and trying to decouple it from, the masses instead of like seeing it as like small organizational, like, whatever's going on in this country, like it's the leaders of the country, not the individuals that are like, it's not all the people that are doing it. It's more, corrupt officials or things like that. So decoupling and balance for me is like having a level head. And even if people have different ideas or perspectives than us, realizing that they've had different backgrounds and different ways to come up with that ideology. So it's just having that chance to, even if it's something you don't necessarily agree with, realizing that that individual has a reason to why they believe that.
I love that. I love that. And what you're talking about in large part is compassion, But I want to suggest one thing, because what you're saying is true, So balance is being able to look at people and giving them the space to be who they are. But what I want to suggest, though, is that it's very much like wearing sunglasses. If you had sunglasses on, tinted sunglasses, and you didn't know that you had them on, or maybe you had tinted contacts, thank you, in your eyes, you may not recognize it, but the whole world would be changed by the lens. And after a while, you'll forget that the world isn't that color. So what I'm saying is that I agree with exactly what you said, but we have to understand that we have to come from inside out, because if we don't, we will be coming from an identified conceptual point of view and not realize it. So instead of looking at this person as an individual, we're looking at them through the lens of what we have learned about that group and identified, especially if we have felt harmed by that group. And then all of a sudden, we can't take them. Even though we want to, we're so caught up with the baggage of our identification that we're not really giving this person a fair chance. The other thing that I think is really important in being able to do that and having this compassion is really recognizing that right now we have to develop the gift of being able to really, really listen to people even when we disagree with them. Especially when we really disagree with them. And so one of the things that happens is if someone is saying something that you find reprehensible, it's really hard to listen to anything else they have to say. If they got 1%, they got a good point on, and 99% reprehensible, we tend to negate 100% of what they say. And I want to suggest that we have to find the ability to sift through and find where we have commonality even with that. So thank you very, very much. Does anyone else have a few statements about this before we do a little bit of practice? Yes, ma'am. Right here. Thank you. Sorry to have you running around so much. Thank you.
I took a course on being judgmental.
Mm-hmm. They were teaching you how to be judgmental?
Pardon?
Were they teaching you how to be judgmental or no?
It was at a Unity church.
Okay.
And that was the topic for a couple, 3 months.
Okay.
And I thought, I can't hear myself. I'm not judgmental, maybe a little.
Mm-hmm.
I did not realize how judgmental I was, really judgmental.
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought, how do I change that? Because it was so automatic with me. Oh, I didn't like this. And one night I was watching how you flip a house.
Mm-hmm.
And I decided what I'm going to do is every time I'm going to be very aware of what I say, and then I'm going to take that negative and flip it to a positive.
I love it.
And it really worked, except sometimes I couldn't find the positive. And so I go, that's sure a nice shirt they have on, like that. So now it's such a habit with me that now I'm feeling non-judgmental again.
I love it. I love it.
And that was an easy way to do it.
I love it. Thank you. So one of the ways that we find balance is by studying language. Now, the word equanimity, I love these words: equanimity, tranquility. Think words like that. Tranquility means tranquility. It means all things, quill, the writing utensil, iti, the city of tranquility. So what I'm suggesting is to be tranquil is to assume ownership of your life. It's to assume a radical ownership of your life. Equanimity is to take all things as being equal, which is positive indifference. And so, what I'm saying is finding the language and finding these different ways of reframing and finding ways of finding the positive and finding ways to access language in the moment is one of the ways that we find that balance. And in recognizing that what you are doing is so vitally important. Each one of us in our hearts has been profoundly disturbed over these last years. I would be shocked if someone raised their hand and said that they weren't. Don't get me wrong, I support you. But I'd be shocked. But what I would suggest to you is that this is a call for you to shift your relationship to your own world. And in doing so, we find that we can live with less judgment. And less judgment for ourselves as well. And we can be aware of ourselves when we're activating it. You know, one of the things that I found with my career in supporting people and reducing their stress is people will often say they want to reduce their stress, but a lot of times people don't want to do it. We have to take on the shift the world needs as though it's a personal matter. You know? That this, when I was growing up in that situation, it amazed me how committed people were to hatred. If they woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning, they woke up hating. I feel like we got to be that committed. That's the balance. We have to be equally committed to radiating kindness into the world. I told you about the Peanuts characters. One of my favorite Peanuts character, I don't know what his name was, but it's the guy, he walked around with a cloud of Pigpen, right? Well, I'm saying we got to be Pigpen, except for we got to live in a cloud of joy and kindness, so that when we go through the world, when we walk up to someone, that cloud comes up to them with us. It works. I'm telling you, 100% know this. I've seen it. I bought a coffee for a gentleman one day, and it was so funny because I was at the coffee shop, I bought the coffee for him, and then I was sitting there, and then I saw him a short time later buy a coffee for someone else. It was a woman who came in with a child, and she'd forgotten her wallet, and the child was not pleased. And so the guy just jumped up and bought her that. But it was that echo. You know? So, any other questions or statements before we maybe do it? Yes, please.
Well, this week our family was embroiled in a crisis that brought out some dysfunction. Mm-hmm. And so rather than me getting my negative emotions, adding that to the fire, what I decided to do was to detach a little bit and decide to love from a distance. I wasn't going to be judgmental. Anything I could add that was positive to help turn the conversations around, I would do that. But I was just going to set some boundaries and still love them from a distance.
Mm-hmm. I love it. I love it. And just choosing not to get just sucked into the vortex of it. And by the way, there's a lot of us who have that dysfunctional stuff going on in our families right now. It's not just you, all right? I just want to tell you. I mean, if we talked around, I bet you there would be a good percentage who, maybe not in their immediate family, their extended family, they got some serious dysfunction happening right now. But again, it's when you feel out of balance, this is a call for you to come into balance. So, all right? So thank you very, very much. So let's do a little bit more practice, and then we can go back into conversation, because I want to create an active relationship to what it means to come into greater balance. So we talked about, again, if your head is so huge that that's all you're thinking about is your perceptions, how things are affecting you, what you think, how you've been wronged. You're going to step into a self-righteousness that is going to affect your ability to make good decisions. When you feel self-righteous, you feel justified in attacking others. Right? So one of the ways to shift that and to come into balance is to recognize that the body is here for you to come into balance. Most of the time when we get caught up in our body, like, oh, what's wrong with this? What's wrong with that? Oh, I hope nothing's happening. We think that we're in contact with the body, but we're really in the head worrying about the body. That's not the same thing as being in the body. So if you wouldn't mind, I would like to ask you to stand up for me or with me for just a moment. Now, we're going to bring greater balance into the world right now, and I'm asking you to realize that this is not just about you, this is about the whole wide world. The whole wide world is in your heart. Your heart is connected to everyone. So, first of all, just spatially, feet are hip width, not too wide. Now I'm going to have my palms forward. I'm going to bring my navel in just about a half an inch. I'm just relaxing the jaws, and I'm just going to really pay attention. I'm just doing backward circles. Breathing, really paying attention. Feel the shifting that happens, backward circles. Luxuriate in it. The body is a miracle. Now, my thumbs are up. Make sure you don't hit anyone. Backward circles. If you hit someone, at least don't hit them hard. Backward circles. I'm going to take my fingers now. I'm hooking on either side of my clavicle. I'm stretching my chin up. In breathing, I open and close the mouth. Angle it one way and then the other. Interlace the fingers. Hands come up and over. I'm stretching through the back of the neck. Easy. Angle it one way and then the other. And let it go. Excellent. Now my palms are forward. I'm going to bring my shoulder blades nice and tight together. I'm going to bring my shoulder blades into the back pocket and my head right over the shoulders and breathe. And let it go. Now, I want to just tell you what we're doing is we're activating our posture, but another thing that's happening right now is that what happens in the world is we begin to close our heart. Our hearts begin closed, and what happens when your heart closes, the shoulders come forward. The heart is literally trying to back away from the world. We're doing the opposite right now. The palms are out, shoulder blades tight, tips of the shoulder blades in the back pocket, ears over the shoulders. And just feel that open heart. Breathe. Let it relax. This position is supremely hopeful. This is hope in physicality, this position. One more time, shoulder blades tight, tips of the shoulder blades in the back pocket, firm thighs, ears over the shoulders. Keep breathing. Let it relax. Ultimate patience, infinite patience brings about immediate results. I'm going to grab my right wrist. I'm going to pull it straight down into the earth. I'm standing up tall. I angle my head to the right. Breathe. I'm just stretching through the neck and shoulder. I'm going to grab my left wrist. I'm going to pull it straight down into the earth. I angle my head the opposite direction, the other right. Let it go. All right, I'm going to make goalposts with the forearms. I rotate the forearms back. I bring the chest up and bring the ears right over the shoulders. Breathing. Let it go. We're retraining our posture right now. That's what we're doing. I'm going to do it again. Goalposts, rotate the forearms back, bring the chest up, ears over the shoulders, firm thighs. And let it relax. One of the things that happens when we feel a lot of stress is our posture begins to go. One more time. Rotate, chest up, ears over the shoulders. And release. Excellent. All right, just a couple more now. I'm going to have my hand underneath the chin. Chin is level. Head comes forward. Bring it all the way back as far as you can go. Hold it in place. Let it go. We're going to do it again. Chin comes forward, coming all the way back. Feel where you feel it. What muscles are becoming fatigued? And let it release. One of the things that happens with stress and with the aging process is our head begins to stick out. Right? We want to retrain those muscles of the neck. Okay? Chin is level. Come back as far as you can. Hold it in place. Keep breathing. And let it go. We're just going to do two more now. I'm going to bring my hand, my right hand is on my left shoulder. I'm going to try to put my right ear on the front of the right shoulder. Not the side, but the front. Release it. I'm going to take my left hand and place it on my right shoulder. I'm going to try to put my left ear on the front of the left shoulder. Play with it. And let it relax. Now I'm going to ask you just to have a seat. Excellent. Now there's one more here, and in many ways this is the very most important one. And so we're all on computers a lot. And so I really want to suggest that occasionally throughout your day that you do this last movement. All of them are important. So all these movements, it only takes less than 5 minutes to do. If you activate your posture every day, your stress level will drop. You may not make any other changes in your world, but if you have better posture, your stress will drop. Okay, so what I'm saying is you don't always have to make a frontal assault on the stressors. Sometimes you can improve other peripheral elements. Now, the last thing I'm going to ask you to do is in your chair, in your seat right now, I'm going to ask you to have your forearms up with the palms up like this, right where you are. Keep the elbows tight. I'm going to ask you to bring the chest up and press the elbows into the back of the chair while the chest is coming up. Let it relax. Breathe. Okay, chest up, press the elbows into the back of the chair. Let it release. And one more time. And let it go. Now breathe. Just relax. Slow your breathing down. And activate the de-escalation template. Anytime you have a conflict, I'm asking you to activate this. It's important to have some idea of how you'll handle conflict. So anytime you have a conflict, slow your breathing down. Practice it right now. Slow your breathing down. Drop awareness into your lower abdomen. Notice subtlety. What happens in conflict is we tend to be focused on the individual we're upset with or afraid of. Widen your awareness, notice subtlety, and in your heart, experience that phrase, I am. Eyes opening. Let's take that nice breath and the easy sigh. Let the breathing come back to normal. Just feel yourself. Don't you feel better? Really? I mean, most of us, don't we feel better? So I want to suggest to you that when you were doing that, you weren't in your head. Not that it's not important to think about what's going on in the world, to give consideration for what's happening in Ukraine and other elements in the world, what's going on in our own country. But I want to suggest to you that if you have a bag that you carry all the time, it's going to wear you out. And so we have to put things down in order to be more effective at dealing with them. It's not avoidance. And so what you did right there was to give your mind and heart a break. And that last movement that we did, by the way, is very, very important. I want to suggest that occasionally when you're working on a computer, you just do that. Put the chest up, press the elbows into the chair, and it will help to reduce your stress level. And by the way, on my website or my YouTube channel, Touching the Edge is my YouTube channel. If you put in posture in my YouTube channel, that series will pop up if you want to have something to practice with. And other elements, that I've gotten, that have put that together. So I just want to ask you to be aware that when you shift yourself, you shift the world. So I want to do another practice, and then I want to just check in, just generally. I want to talk about gratitude. Gratitude is one of the best ways of creating balance. And when we talk about these things, to me, it's like, I want the world to be a kinder place. Beautiful, but what does that mean? What are you going to do? I think it's important to not just have an idea about what you want, but have some idea about how to create a pathway for that. And the gratitude game is one of those things that works. So I want to ask you to play the gratitude game with me. Now, the gratitude game, and I'm asking you to bring this into the world because this is part of the way that you can bring balance into the world. The gratitude game is very, very simple, and it's not nuclear science or anything, but it's very simple. You simply say 4 areas that you're grateful for. And small areas are just as important as large. I want to share with you 4 areas that I'm grateful. 1, I'm grateful to be here with you all today because it gives me great hope to see you all. When I see so much conflict in the world, it gives me great hope to see you all. I'm grateful that I am on a mission, and it's not one, hey, until I leave this place, I'm on my mission in life. And I'm grateful for that. It gives me so much passion. It gives me so much joy. I'm grateful because I have faith in humanity. It might be mental illness, but I have faith in humanity. And I'm grateful because I love to laugh and I give myself to laughter. I don't I laugh heartily. I give my whole full body laughter. So I want to ask a few people here, can you tell us 4 areas that you're grateful? And just remember that when you're doing it, you're doing something for the world. Anyone at all, 4 areas. And if you haven't talked, please raise your hand. Anyone want to share 4 areas of gratitude?
So I'm grateful that my 94-year-old mother is vitality.
I love it. I love it.
I'm grateful for 18 years of sobriety and making that choice. I'm grateful to have a state of awareness that keeps me evolving on a daily basis.
I love it.
And I'm grateful that spring is around the corner.
Yes, wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much. There was one person back there who raised their hand.
I just would like to say it's from my heart. I'm grateful for you being here because, yes, thank you very much because I'm part of Ukraine, part of Russian. And I was so, like you told me, so not worried, but what's going on right now. And in the morning, I wake up and start to singing. Sometimes I do it. For morning, I start to singing in my bed. Russian, Ukraine song. I like Russian, Ukraine song. Very rich poetry, very rich countries. Both countries so rich. So rich culture, rich. So, and I start to sing, and then I start to, of course, click what's going on Facebook. And of course, everything. And what I'm singing for, gone. Because what's going on. Why I do it? I don't know. So, and I came today, I see you exactly subject what I need. Balance.
I love it.
So I'm grateful for you being here.
Thank you so much.
It will help me a lot today for week. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I want to express how much I feel this, and I'm sure all of us are, how much I'm holding a space for you personally, because coming from that, both of those two cultures, I know how painful this has to be for you on some level. I can't imagine how painful it is. But I just want to tell you that you're not alone, and that, we are with you. So thank you. Anyone else want to express their gratitude? Okay, just a moment. This gentleman, and then we'll come back.
I'm grateful that God has led me through an awakening process where I look at myself as having walked out of the fog that life was living, in the egoic mind. I'm grateful that I'm living in paradise. This world is truly a paradise, and I'm so grateful to be here.
I love it.
I am grateful that there are so many windmills to tilt at. There is so much going on in this world that we can help make the world a better place.
I love it.
And I'm grateful that God has led me to the point of I've decided I want to live in a better world, and the way to live in a better world for me is to create it.
I love it.
I love what I can do to make it a better world.
All right, so let's go to this young lady here and then come to this young lady right here. So this one back there, she did you raise your hand, ma'am? No, you go for it, please.
I'm really grateful for spirituality and this place for sure. And have a roof over my head.
I love it. It's beautiful. Take your time. Be patient with yourself.
And for second chances, really.
I love it. And I'm grateful for your sweatshirt. Thank you. If we can have this young lady here up front. Yes, please.
I'm grateful for my heated tile floor.
Beautiful.
I'm grateful for my husband who I met at this place and then married him 3 weeks later.
Wow.
And all the people that I've met through this. I'm grateful for 8 days of sobriety again.
No matter how many times it takes. That's beautiful.
And I'm grateful for beef broccoli at Trader Joe's.
I love it. So we'll give maybe 1 or 2 more people a chance, and then we'll do a closing here. So, did you want to go? You raise your hand. Okay. Does anyone else want to go before we do a little closing?
I am grateful that we have countries where we can just say and do what we really believe and not just follow some crazy leader who's trying to take over everything. I am grateful that we have the ability to, we have materials, we have things, abundance in this place. And I am grateful that there is spirituality, and I'm grateful that there are some people who realize that it's not about just making money and selling fossil fuels and so on, but it's about saving the planet.
I love it. Thank you so much. All right. Now, I want to share with you just another tool here. And, I want to ask you to all remember that everything we do is in rhythm. Everything we do is in rhythm. Our thoughts are in rhythm. Our emotions are in rhythm. And so a large part of what happens is that when we have a sense of permanency, we don't recognize that it's actually rhythmic. It's almost like having someone, drawing their name in the sand at the ocean and trying to pretend like when they draw their name in the sand, it'll always be etched there. But the truth is they have to keep redrawing that name in the sand in order for it to remain. So all of these emotional states require energy to keep them in place. They won't stay in place unless something happens. It's kind of like a kid going down the street pushing a tire. That kid has to keep pushing that tire in order for it to keep rolling. But we can think that our emotions are such that they will just stay in place even if we don't do anything. My point is that we have to do something to keep that momentum. And we can do something to interrupt that momentum. So the last thing I want to suggest to you is using what I call speed bumps. Speed bumps. So I want to suggest some speed bumps for you. I'm going to suggest 3 or 4 speed bumps. And they're just simple statements. 1, I will not entertain negative thoughts. You say it 3 times, you say it with intensity, and you break up the cadence. I will not entertain negative thoughts. I will not entertain negative thoughts. I will not entertain negative thoughts. You say it as soon as that sprout happens, that negative thought. It interrupts the rhythm of the pattern. Another speed bump. I'm asking you to choose one of these that really speaks to you. I love my life. I love my life. I love my life. Right when you feel that lack of love, say it with intensity, with meaning. Another one. I am not my thoughts. I am not my emotions. I'm not my body. I'm not my drama. I'm not my thoughts. I'm not my emotions. I'm not my body. I'm not my drama. I'm not my thoughts. I'm not my emotions. I'm not my body. I'm not my drama. Okay? And one more. Let's see. Okay, and there's another one that I use, but it's passing my mind at this point. So, any questions or statements about the speed bumps? Okay, sorry about that. All right, I will ring the bell. Here we go. Sorry. Here we go.
Oh,
thank you.
Thank you, Drake. Thank you, Drake. Oh, now is time to dig deep. Our organization is totally dependent on volunteerism and your donations. So the ushers are going to bring the donation baskets around, and you can also donate on our website, lakeharrietspiritualcommunity.org. And if you do that on a regular basis and have an automatic withdrawal, that's what really helps sustain us. So consider that as well. Please join me in blessing these beautiful offerings. God's perfect love flowing through me blesses and multiplies. All that I give, all that I receive, and all that I am. Oh. Okay, now we're going to gather in our closing circle, and Drake is going to lead this.
Okay.
Stretch.
Okay.
We have big arms.
So, I just want to express that human beings are individuals, and to not paint any group, not to paint any group that an individual comes from as though they are responsible for the actions of that entire group. So, I want to bring myself into that open-heartedness. Just breathing. I'm going to ask you to just receive light. Breathe in light through the forehead and through the crown. And shine white protective light around us all, surrounding us all with white light. Breathing in the yellow and shining white light around this entire earth, healing the earth. Let's take a nice breath in and a lovely sigh. Ah. Now, one last thing. I would ask you to place your left hand over your heart and your right hand on top. Right, and when I say the heart, I mean the energetic heart. So not the pump, but right in the middle. And just breathe into that hand for a moment. I bring my hands to prayer position and I bow to you all. Namaste. Thank you, my friends. Thank you. Hey, by the way, I want to tell you guys one more thing. On Tuesday on my YouTube channel, I'll be putting up 40 videos in 40 days and 40 blog posts on my website, just to be support to people, create a positive framing. So if you're interested, check out my YouTube channel. It's called Touching the Edge. If you want one of my cards, I can give you one of my cards. So thank you.